Let's bring in Bob Kravitz, Indianapolis Star columnist. He's had more insights into this story than any other person, and he joins us now. Let me start with our poll question. More touchdown passes next year, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck?
I think it'll be Peyton Manning. Andrew Luck's not going to have anybody to throw to, and he doesn't have an offensive line. Which
Other
is one of the
than
reasons
that,
why it's smart for Peyton not to be here.
That's what I've said all along. You're rebuilding. Why would Peyton want to be with a banged-up team? No chance to win a championship, and you got Andrew Luck there with him. It just didn't make sense.
It's such a simple decision. I mean, I know it's difficult from an emotional point of view, but it was so simple. I just do the calculation. You know, if you're Peyton Manning, do you want to come back to a team that is completely rebuilding, where you're going to get your brains beat out behind a bad offensive line? You're going to lose Reggie Wayne. You may lose Garcon. On defense, you're probably going to lose. You might lose Freeney. I mean, this is not going to be a good team for quite some time. And then you make the calculation, okay, where are we going to be in 3 years? Do you want to have a team that hasn't won any games for 3 years and a quarterback is on his last legs and is probably going into his final year? Or do you want a young team that's growing and has a quarterback going into his prime? So to me, it was a really obvious decision.
Yeah, I said that there will be blood. Peyton's not the first to go with the big names, that I think that you're going to see upwards of 7 other players that could be released by the Colts. And they're starting over here. Here comes Luck coming into town. I wonder what Andrew Luck feels like today.
Well, I know that he's been watching this thing very closely, and I know that he was, he was in a very tough position at the Combine having to answer questions about Peyton Manning when, you know in his heart of hearts he wants to start right away, and he absolutely should start right away. Look at what rookie quarterbacks did this past year without the benefit of a normal off season. But, boy, the pressure on him is going to be incredible. I mean, not only to follow a legend, but to be viewed by maybe some of the more ignorant fans as a guy who, helped precipitate the end of the Peyton Manning era. It's going to be really, really rough for him. And he's I think he's up to it. I think he's mentally tough. I think he's physically very, very good. But he is walking into a very, very difficult situation, and I hope he's ready for it.
Well, he's going to walk in Peyton's footsteps, 1 year removed from those footsteps. But he also has to live up to Cam Newton's rookie year as well. And you're right about the fans. I said, don't blame anybody here. I think Irsay did what he needed to do as a businessman, and Peyton did what he needed to do as a businessman, and somebody who wants to be viewed as the greatest quarterback of all time. You're lucky that you have the number 1 pick, and you're lucky that you have Andrew Luck. Look at it as a positive. You saw one of the great quarterbacks of all time. You got 2 Super Bowl appearances out of this,
right.
1 title, new stadium, and now you bring in Andrew Luck. That's pretty blessed
Not
life.
Bad. I keep trying to remind people that, I was in Denver for a long time, and they're still trying to replace John Elway. Look at the Miami Dolphins. It's 25 years since Dan Marino. I mean, here in Indiana, they should be throwing a parade. I mean, throw 2 parades. One parade for Peyton Manning and appreciation, and 1 parade that you're getting Andrew freaking Luck. I mean, you're getting the best quarterback prospect to come out of college since John Elway. And all you had to do is sit through 1 year of Curtis Painter. Now, I realize that's the equivalent of 10 years in a normal life, but still, I mean, that's pretty good. You're going from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck with 1 year in between. They should feel very, very happy about that.
Yeah, I don't think either side handled it particularly well. No. I think Irsay was honest when he called Peyton a politician, leaking the information to Chris Mortensen, that there was a method to all of this on both sides, but I think at the end that if you're able to have that nice kumbaya press conference today, hugs, tears, and then you go your separate ways. I guess the bigger question I have, Bob, is you have this grainy Zapruder film with Peyton throwing to, I don't know who, maybe those high school kids that Favre used to throw to. Can he play?
That's a big question. I mean, just because you see 4 throws, you don't see maybe let's say they're doing a progression of throws. You don't see the 6th throw and the 7th throw and the 8th throw. You don't know if the ball starts to wobble. You don't know if there's arm fatigue. Now, what I've been told is that he's throwing much, much better. And what matters is where his arm is going to be come August, when training camp rolls around. as opposed to now. If he's making significant progress now, there's every reason to believe he's going to be ready to go. But look, Jim Irsay is privy to the medical records that we are not privy to, and Jim truly believes that Peyton is one hit away from the end of his career. And if not that, he's going to be very susceptible to other injuries. Once one part of the body is weakened, other parts of the body become weakened. And so there's a very serious consideration on Irsay's part that he just doesn't feel like Peyton Manning is going to hold up. And when you have Andrew Luck sitting there, you'd be an absolute moron not to do it. Remember that it was Jim Irsay's father, Bob Irsay, who traded away John Elway after Elway refused to go to Baltimore. Jim Irsay was not going to do that. So I give Jim a lot of credit for, he's eccentric and he's a little wacky and all that stuff. But he's making all the right moves here, as difficult as they are.
Okay, let's say you don't have the number one pick.
Everything changes.
Yeah, let's say you have the 7th pick, 6th pick, 5th pick, but you don't have a chance to get Andrew Luck. Now, what is the situation in Indianapolis?
Now the situation is that you are watching that Zapruder film very, very closely, and you are going and getting yourself a good, solid backup quarterback. Whether it's Dan Orlovsky or somebody significantly better. That you're not even thinking about this. Now maybe you would be looking at a Ryan Tannehill for the long term and saying to Ryan Tannehill, okay, you're going to sit for 2 or 3 years and you're going to learn behind the best. But, this never would have come to pass. All they needed to do was win one more stinking game. Really. When you win one more stinking game, and people want to blame people. Blame Bill Polian and Jim Caldwell for sticking with Curtis Painter for as long as they did. Because I truly believe that if they had started Dan Orlovsky earlier, they would have won another game or two.
But is that good for the franchise?
No, it was brilliant. I mean, if the idea was to put yourself in a position to get Andrew Luck, it was a brilliant move.
You might have the first.
They're that calculated, but it was a great move.
You might have the first pick next year. We're talking to Bob Kravitz, the Indianapolis Star columnist. Before I let you go, if you look at Peyton's priorities, and you know him as well as anybody, certainly in the last couple of months, if we looked at winning another championship, I don't know if you go sticking it to the Colts and where he plays, playing indoors, and the money aspect.
Winning another championship, I think it's that's number one, and breaking records, which means being in a place where they have a good offensive line and have good wide receivers. I think he also wants to go to a place where he can control the offense. I mean, that's Peyton. Peyton takes all the snaps in practice. Peyton is the coach, the GM, the offensive coordinator. He does everything. So it's got to be the right situation for him. It's got to be a place where they'll give him complete autonomy. But I think winning championships is a number one on his list. I think at this point he's probably made enough money for a couple of lifetimes.
Good to visit with you, Bob. Know you got a busy day. Thank you, bud.
I do. Thank you.
Bob Kravitz, Indianapolis Star columnist.